In recent IndyCar history, no driver in my opinion has been more disappointing than Ed Jones. Off the back of his Indy Lights Championship in 2016, Jones went on to race with 3 different teams in just 4 seasons, where his results went from promising to absolutely pitiful. There was quite a lot of hype behind him after his rookie season, but that soon ran out, and by the end of his time in the series, some were glad to see him gone. Some may debate how just one season can change the public's opinion on a driver, but that has happened before, and this is yet another case in it. In 2021, Ed Jones would put together one of the most anemic seasons in recent IndyCar history. A year so bad that destroyed both the broader public's opinion on him and its IndyCar career as a whole. Today, I tell the story of Ed Jones' terrible 2021 IndyCar season. 2021 would see Ed's return to the series, following up a bad 2 years for him. After he was unceremoniously dumped by Chip Ganassi in just his sophomore year, he then drove for Ed Carpenter on a road course only schedule, where he broke his hand to kick the year off and wouldn't return to the team or series in 2020. He was originally set to race for Audi and DTM, but after the pandemic left him stuck in Dubai, he won't race at all in 2020. For 2021, Ed would race for Dale Coyne in the number 18 car, replacing Santino Ferrucci and returning to the team he made his IndyCar debut with. However, unlike his rookie year, which in my opinion was his best ever IndyCar season, 2021 would be god-awful. The first race of the 2021 season took place at Barber Motorsports Park, and it wasn't a good start to the year. After starting 13th and just barely missing the massive lap 1 crash ahead of him, Jones would still finish the race down in 15th. It's not too bad, considering the fact it was his first IndyCar road race since late 2019, but it's not a good sign when you get handily beat by your rookie teammate. Romain Grosjean, who at this point was still recovering from the burns he suffered in his F1 crash at Bahrain the year prior, beat Jones quite considerably this weekend, as Grosjean qualified 7th and finished 10th. This is a point that we'll return to on multiple occasions throughout this video. St. Pete was another rough race, seeing Jones have little to no pace all weekend. His qualifying time would be about 1.2 seconds off of the pole, only out-qualifying Max Chilton, Jimmy Johnson, and Don Kellett, who with all due respect were the perennial backmarkers this season. As bad as his qualifying was, it pales in comparison to how his race went. After spending most of the race buried in the midfield, Jones would get himself involved in 3 incidents in just 4 corners. He'd first run into the back of Pato O'Ward into turn 1, before going for an airheaded pass down the inside of James Hinchcliffe. This of course ended in disaster, as after nearly spinning out, O'Ward would finish him off. Jones finished 20th that day, but certainly took the spot for the dumbest piece of driving so far this year. The doubleheader in Texas was a mixed bag. Race 1 that weekend was his best race so far this season, with a not-so-good 19th place start, converting into a decent 12th at the checkered flag. The next day's affairs, however, would come to a quick end, as Jones would be taken out in the crash coming to the green flag. Pietro Fittipaldi was his teammate this weekend, and out-qualified Jones for the pair of the races. However, Ed did outperform Pietro in the races, finishing 3 spots ahead in race 1, while Pietro was the catalyst for that start crash in race 2. Grosjean would return to the number 51 ride for the next race in Indianapolis, and if the first 2 teammate comparisons were just bumps in the road, the IMS road course race was a concrete wall. Jones qualified for the race in 9th, his best qualifying performance so far, but that's not really a performance worth celebrating when your rookie teammate in his 3rd ever IndyCar race grabs the pole. Things got even worse in the race itself, as while Jones dropped down to 14th, Romain would nab the podium, finishing 2nd behind Rinus VeeKay. There was really nothing of note from the Indy 500, as Jones qualified in the middle of row 4 and 11th. But as quickly as things looked up, they shot back down to hell with a 28th place finish. This up and down nature would continue throughout the rest of the year. Race number 1, the final duel in Detroit, would be the first of only a few times in 2021 where Ed Jones would actually finish in the top 10, and it was one of, if not his best performance of the year. His qualifying performance was amazing, as he'd start the race in 4th. He'd even lead 2 laps in the race itself, the first time he'd lead a race since his time at Ganassi in 2018. By the checkered flag, he would finish 9th, a very good performance, but could have been even better. On the restart with 3 laps to go, Jones was in 6th, but soon dropped back. If he managed to stay up there, and even grab a couple of spots, it would have been just his 4th career top 5. But it wasn't meant to be. Along the same lines of the last doubleheader in Texas, Race 2 was a disappointment compared to Race 1, as Jones started 11th and finished 17th. For the 9th race of the 2021 season, IndyCar was off to Road America, and the Dale Coyne team would have a new face in a new car. Enter living skyscraper and race car driver Cody Ware. Now, I think it's fair to say that Cody is no Ayrton Senna, so when he was slated to make his IndyCar debut, hopes were fairly low. Some fans were upset, but Jones likely wasn't, as it gave Ed the chance to outqualify a teammate, something he had only achieved once so far this year, when he outqualified Fittipaldi in Indianapolis. Where was low-hanging fruit for Ed, as Jones outqualified Cody by about a second and a half. But this somewhat false sense of satisfaction was soon met with disappointment, as Ed Jones fell out of the top 15 before suffering a left rear suspension failure with just 5 laps to go. Mid-Ohio followed, where after starting 16th, Ed would crash into Will Power after the Aussie spun in turn 5. But following back-to-back DNFs, Jones would have a strange weekend in Nashville. Jones qualified in 26th, only ahead of Cody Ware. But in the chaotic race that ensued, Jones finished 6th, his best finish of the year. But the race wasn't all smooth sailing, with Jones pitching Scott McLaughlin into a spin on lap 16. Despite that small blip, it was still a good finish, and one of the few high points from the year. The second IMS road course race was just about the same as the first, with Jones disappointingly deep in the midfield and Grosjean scoring another podium. Gateway was promising at first, with Jones managing to outqualify teammate Grosjean in his oval debut. But while Grosjean impressed the fans and the paddock with his performances in the race, Jones crashed on lap 3 after a clumsy move on Graham Rahal into turn 1. Portland was a somewhat decent race, as although he finished outside the top 10, he led 2 laps on the day, the last time he would lead a lap in the series. Laguna Seca was the last top 10 for Jones, but he caught more attention for what happened in Long Beach. After starting the race in 9th, Jones went for a bonehead move down at the hairpin. In doing so, he would punt Pato O'Ward into a spin. Now, a move like that is bad enough, but it did so much more than just wreck someone's race. Pato had a shot at winning the title, and could have possibly won it that day had Jones not done this. It was a desperate move from Jones, as it was pretty much an open secret in the paddock that Jones was out Dale Coyne and was trying to get a ride for next year. It killed Pato's hopes at that title, it killed a championship fight that could have been quite good, and practically killed Ed Jones' IndyCar career. It's been a year and a half now since Ed Jones raced in IndyCar, and there's been no rumors or discussion about a possible return. Some drivers deserve more time than they got to flourish in a series, but I'd be lying if I said that Jones was one of them. 4 years is plenty of time to show what you got, and Jones just couldn't do it. In his last season, he was pummeled by his teammates in qualifying, really had no noteworthy performances that caught people's attention, and was a wrecking ball in the races. I will say that his qualifying and just general pace did get better in the second half of the year, but when you only outqualify your main rookie teammate a few times during your 4th year in the series, something is definitely wrong. Now, I will say that he did outqualify both Cody Ware and Ryan Norman in the 4 races the 52 car did during the summer, but both of those guys had no experience in the series and were racing cars that were essentially fully sponsored spares. Those I don't really count because it's essentially stat padding. With 3 top 10s, an average start of 13.8, an average finish of 16.4, 4 DNFs, 3 of which were due to crashes, and a 19th place points finish, Ed's 2021 season was nothing short of cataclysmically bad. But the worst stat of all is the number 39. That's the amount of points that separated Jones and Grosjean in the championship. In running 3 less races than his teammate, technically 4 because Indy gives out double points, Romain Grosjean outscored his veteran teammate in his rookie year. That stat alone, the number 39 and the 39 points it represented that separated the two at season's end, is what made Ed Jones' 2021 IndyCar season completely terrible. Thank you for watching, and have a great afternoon.